No, that's good. So, in the next step of, the next 10 moves to make so you can be a buyer in 2025, guys, I want to talk about paying down debt and avoiding big purchases. We unfortunately have seen this in numerous instances over the years where someone buys a car and they go, oh, I want to buy a house too. Or they go spend a bunch of money on furniture, or they take a line of credit out at Best Buy or whatever, name your favorite retailer. And then they unintentionally kind of pin themselves up against a wall when it comes to qualifying for their mortgage, and their debt to income ratios through the roof and past the threshold because they've amassed all this other consumer debt. So let's talk real quickly about, knowing what your debt to income ratio is, why it's important, and what people should be doing right now.
So your debt to income ratio is simply the money you make to opposed to the money that you pay out in debts that are on your credit. And I think it's very uncommon for somebody to understand what a debt to income ratio is if you ask them if they're not in the financial world. Like, very rarely I see someone, no, I check it all the time. I stay on top of it. But it's actually the most important calculation when buying a house, because if you don't have the thresholds of the debt to income ratios for the certain program that you're going to, get financed through, you're not going to be able to get approved. So learning, what your debt to income ratio is based upon the loan amount or the purchase price that you want to buy, you can calculate more or less where you're at based on, how much you pay a month, what your income is. And then if you have a mortgage calculator, that could actually tell you more or less what the payment is. You can factor that into your calculation and more or less give yourself an idea of what your debt to income ratio is.
Oh, that's right. Debt to income ratios, and especially for every product, is very different. If you go with FHA, they usually, the top, debt to income ratio they want you to go to is 46.99% over 56, which means 46.99% of your current income could go towards paying your house payment, which is your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, etc. The back-end ratio, the 56, is calculating your housing payment in addition to any outstanding debts like credit card debt, whatever shows on your credit, student loans, etc. No more, no less. You have to stay within those figures. With conventional, it's pretty much 49.99% over 49.99%. And that's pushing it. We don't like seeing that. As a matter of fact, when we took our test, they want to stay within 28 to 36%. Guys, I'm telling you, that is so difficult to do. So difficult.
You got to have a crazy job.
On average, we're like 43, 46%. Yeah. VA, you can go 46 to like 56. And I'll be honest, there's been times if you have excellent credit scores, you save a good amount of money. We've approved people where they're like 69 over 79. Now, the reason why we put that person there is because not that we're trying to be irresponsible and saying like, oh, we're just going to get you approved and that's it. Who cares what happens? No. What's happening there is the wife is self-employed and they earn additional income, but on their taxes, it shows on their profit and loss, it shows them as a negative. So we're not able to use that because it hinders their situation. Because being self-employed, you get to write off, your vehicle, all you have your vacations, you get all these expenses.
There's depreciation. Yeah,
exactly. So we want to make sure that we're being responsible lenders.
Yeah, I want to make sure it's really important what you're saying, because that debt to income level is a ratio of what's allowable on paper compared to the cost that they're looking to get approved for, not actual money net at home in their budget, like we talked about in the earlier segment. So knowing your budget really tight and in and out is important, especially because the bank may look at it one way, but in your real life, it looks much, much different.
Yeah, exactly. And with VA, it's very different. It's not only just based on debt to income. There's a residual side of income that's how you really get approved, is how much income is going to be left over after you pay and you have a certain amount of kids. So you have to go certain amount of kids, see what's going to be left over for you to feed the family. Yep. So that's your residual income.
They have a utility factor inside that as well and what you're going to pay. So your monthly residual income for VA is actually what determines part of your qualification, not just the debt to income ratio itself in the VA space.
Exactly. If you don't meet the residual income, you won't get approved.
It doesn't matter. Your DTI can be really low, and if you're not meeting the residual, it's
not going to go through. So there's two portions. It gets a little more complex, but it works, okay? The best thing that I tell people to do if they want to understand what their max payment is I tell them, Andy, what I like you to do is you make $100,000, you divide that by 12, and then you multiply that by 46%. Actually, I tell them 43% because I haven't ran credit.
Yeah.
So after you divide it out of 43 cents, I'm just going to use here hypothetical numbers. That puts you like at $3,000. That's the max debt to income ratio that you're going to be able to exceed. is
Yeah.
43%. Once we run credit and all that, then,
We can know.
you know, and so that kind of gives them an idea is, oh, I can search for homes. So let me log in and see when the calculator and let me see what that payment, it's under 3,000. Oh, maybe it gives me a little more boost of confidence of just going out there and getting approved.
So I want to say something super practical to everybody who might be in this segment of the show. You know, face the music and make a plan. List out every single credit card you have: car loan, personal loan, credit, you know, store credit card. You know, face the music of what you are in situation wise with your money and what debt is holding you back from maybe crossing the threshold to getting approved for a home. These things will come up on your credit report, and we talked about credit at length at the beginning of this show. So you have to be honest with it, because you're going to end up having to be honest with us. We're required to be honest with underwriting. Underwriting's required to be honest with the end investor. And ultimately, for a deal to happen, these things are going to have to be addressed.
Yeah, and you know, one of the biggest issues we've been seeing is a lot of our clients, and I've heard these horror stories, is avoid big purchases. So as you're going and you're already in the home, a lot of times you go back to the property, you drive around, and you're already visualizing yourself there. So what is it that you need? I'm going to need furniture. I'm going to need a new stove, a new refrigerator, a new washer and dryer, right? Because a lot of those things don't convey with your purchase. So they're already asking you, can I go run my credit? They're offering 0% down at Best Buy right now. And it's like,
don't do it.
No, don't do it. And then when can I do it?
Right when you
We're going to sign loan documents tomorrow. Can I do it now? No,
Nope.
Don't do it. What we're starting to see, Andy, is at the last minute, the investors pulling credit. They're doing a soft pull. It doesn't hinder anybody, but they get to see the inquiries.
They're trying to see if you added debt since they approved you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we did have one 3 months ago where it was a $29,000 debt. $29,000 debt. We had already signed loan documents. They ran that credit. And mind you, most of the times we table fund, so we'll fund that same day. So somebody caught it that, and we had to unwind that and identify what that debt was.
Wow.
And so we identified that, one, she has enough funds to put that for that debt, so she can pay that off. Secondly, her income was so high that, you know, even with the monthly payment, you know, of what was it, like $500, she was able to qualify. But most don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's important. Back when I was doing sales, I used to tell people, would you rather have a garage you could put a car in, or a car you have to find a garage for? And that was really just a qualifier of like, hey, listen, how important is that to you to put one in front of the other? Like, get the house first, go get the car later.
Yeah.